Alrighty, welcome back to another devlog. This is number 40. So on Monday and Tuesday, I was working on this new character shield from this package I bought. It's the first shield I did was good, but it wasn't this one was better from what I was seeing. So basically this one allows you to do one that conforms to a skinned mesh instead of just like a sphere around, which is okay, but this one, it had a whole bunch of examples and I wanted to do more like a conforming shield. So it took a while to work with the package and get it exactly the way I wanted it and like how it works. It wasn't too bad, but I figured it out. The thing was I had to modify my let's turn this off here. I had to, where is, there it is. I had to modify the structure of my character in order to accommodate the shield. So this is where my mesh baker tool came in handy. You could actually take a lot of elements that there used to be. There used to be a ton of individual skin mesh renderers for each of these three, like I did last week, these three duplicate skin mesh renderer models for the transition. And I was able to combine all the necessary ones in order to have an overall coverage, complete coverage of the body. I left a few things out. So the eyes, for some reason the texture on the eyes was, one was lit and one was unlit, so I left those out. But I couldn't so I did the body, but I could not, I had to keep the coat. I included the coat in the combined mesh, but I had to actually keep the coat separate as well, because while the actual skin mesh does, if you look, it does pick up the changes. Let's see. It does pick up the changes in the hair and the tail. It doesn't pick up the changes in the coat, and that's because the actual coat is not rigged with an armature. It's using the Magica cloth, which is doing a different mesh deform. So it's not going to move with the skin mesh renderer. So so the shield actually stays static for the coat, and I think that's okay. But it moves with the hair, it moves with the tail. And what else do we have? So I was able to get the shield working, and I was able, for the skin mesh renderers, I was actually, for each one of these, I was actually able to optimize the individual skin mesh renderers, so we just have less of them. So that's an performance boost. So I got this working, and I had to make sure that it worked alongside the actual stealth transition states. So I had to kind of test, the look and feel, what happens at different stages. So you're not stealth, and then you go into stealth. And I think it looks pretty good when you're in stealth. You still see the mesh, and um, then it has certain, and then depending on if you're in stealth or you're not, it'll have different transitions. If you're transitioning out of stealth and the mesh is on, it'll actually do this cool little down to up like that. That's because if you turn your stealth off while the mesh is active, it'll actually just, there's no way, it's hard to get it to fade out smoothly into the stealth. But this is a good compromise. So it actually, the only way you can actually, I was having trouble with the two transparent shaders. There's a caveat when you're using two transparent shaders. One for the stealth and one for the transparent shield mesh. The Unity has a hard time differentiating the Z depth, and I was getting this issue where if you're in stealth, you wouldn't be able to see the actual mesh, the shield mesh through one transparent through another, and it was not easy to get them both to work together since they're both transparent. So I kind of had to work around that. But at the end of the day, I think I got it looking pretty good with the color, and we'll just do a little more here. So when you transition to stealth and then it's still on, you transition to non-stealth, and then the regular stealthing works as it should. And then if you get hit while you're in stealth, and then let's just say the shield recharges while you're in stealth, it'll do its little thing and then eventually fade out like that. I think that's pretty good. So yeah, nothing more to say about that. Like I said, the hem of the coat doesn't move, but I think that's fine when we're talking about the overall. So you can kind of see the coat bleeding through a little bit, but that's not really the biggest of deals, in my opinion. Yeah, you can claim that it's a body shield, not really doesn't really conform to the coat dynamically, but anyways, so I had a couple hours left, and I fixed the characters' colliders again, so the actual doors open up now, and when you transition from room to room again, the shadows will go on and off. And they don't conflict with the character's overall collider detector like they were before. They're on a separate layer, so that's all working. I had a little bit of time, and I was exploring the blood package. I was thinking, like, once the shield goes down and then you start taking hits, it would be cool if there's actually some blood when you take a hit with no shield to kind of reflect damage. Yeah, it's pretty cool. I think I will do that, but not right now. I think I'll do it later. And also maybe when I'm attacking enemies, I can do a little bit of blood. I think that would be, I think it would be kind of nice to do that, just for effect. So at the next stage, this is all done. I really wanted to turn and focus on the core gameplay loop. Like, at this time, all this time, it's like it's the most important feature of the game. I could make another AI, I could do this, I can do that. But I'm really, it's like, do I have enough elements in order to, like, demonstrate the core gameplay. That's like the most important part. So I had to kind of sit down and think about, go back to thinking about design again. I need that, what happens in the room, how does the player interact with the dynamic elements of the game, like the AI or whatever. And I need to really, at this point, um, I really need to get the core gameplay loop prototype working and demonstrated in the project. I have a lot of elements and even polish elements, but it's that doesn't really make up a game. So this is next. So um on Wednesday it was all about thinking about transitioning back into game designer mode, and thinking about the core gameplay mechanics. So it's pretty much the beating heart of the game, and what's gonna happen in this room. It's like um, um, so I was doing thinking, and I figured out I figured there was about 4 core concepts I'm trying to figure out. So like I call them the cores. Like the first one is the stealth core. Like, and when you're in this room, pretty much like there's gonna be a stealth component where it's like you have enemies patrolling about, and your objective is to go from point A to point B, get across the room without being spotted. Because you get spotted, you'll get killed. You're in no shape to defend yourself or go into combat. Right. It's about sneaking, evasion, and avoidance, and there's a puzzle in itself. And I want to include maybe some pressure, like you can't just sit here and plan and look at the static, routes of the enemies and, methodically plan your way through. You kind of have to make split-second decisions. The second core of the game is the action core, where let's just say, you've made it across the room, you've evaded all the enemies or whatever, and you go to your goal, and maybe you pick up a power-up or something, and now you get a shield, and now you get a stealth, or you get the tools. Now it's like you're powered up, and now your goal is to go into action mode, which is the enemies are engaging you, and you're trying to eliminate. It's just like a shooter, right? A top-down shooter, and and then you have your shield, but you can't just sit there and take unlimited damage. You kind of have to recharge and cover for a little bit, and then come back out and finish them off. That's the second core. The third core I want to explore is I call the HK core, which is HK is a hunter killer. It's pretty much an AI that's a bit more complex and a bit more advanced than your standard AI that kind of patrols and has detection and attack states. This one actually pops up from time to time and is controlled by an overall AI director, and it kind of pops up and it's more, I guess, more invincible, and it's kind of like a wild card, I guess, where if you're on a static, you're trying to avoid static enemies, and you're doing like a planned route, the AI might just come out at that time and disrupt your plans. You might come in, and this AI is more active. It kind of generally knows where you are, and it kind of goes to your general area, and it has a behavior of it knows where you are, but not really, and it's kind of stalking you, kind of like Alien Isolation. I think that would be a really cool mechanic. And I think the last core, I mean, at this point, it's like, for any developer, you should probably just focus on one or the other, one, two at most, but I'm at three already. And, and now I'm sitting here at four and say, I want to have the fourth core, which is the boss encounters core. At the end of each level, there's a unique boss with unique mechanics, um, that utilize the rest of the core mechanics. So a lot to kind of prototype and to see, which of the cores work together, like, in combination, one or more, in certain situations, and then from those cores, their variances, to have content for the game, right? That's what I'm. That's the whole design structure, of the game, and so it seems like a lot, but this is like, I want to prototype these cores in some sense and see what makes sense to use together. But you have to prototype each core, and then you can kind of combine them in variations to flesh out the content of the game. So I decided to focus on number one, which is the stealth core. Even though I'm kind of eager to do an HK core, I think it's a good idea since I'm using. I'm transitioning to this new. If you look over here, this new behavior system here. And what's interesting about this? So previously, when I was doing my first AI work, I was using Invector's. They call it FSM, and it's pretty much a state machine, just like you would see, in the animator. And this allows a free flow of state from state to state. And while this works, my overall experience, like I got to get it working, but it came with a lot of stuff, out of the box that I'm not using, and that sped up the process of getting it done. But the problem with this is it's very hard to. It started to become too complex. Like, there are debugging tools, but the problem was, like, it would transition to states, and you couldn't really clearly see what it was doing or how it was working. It's going here, or from any state it was jumping over here, and it's just like it's kind of hard to track down exactly how it was behaving when it was running. And I wanted to try my hand at another kind of state machine concept where it seems on the surface it seems like a better, because I've always worked with state machines, but state machines are okay, they get the job done, but they can get very complex, and you kind of have to account for the combination of one state moving to any other state, and it kind of gets out of hand. It kind of gets into a too complex, and you want to stay away from complexity if you can. But so this one here, this is a Unity tool, and basically mostly does the same thing, but the main difference is that it runs in cycles. It goes down the tree and it branches, and then once it's finished, it goes, back around over and over again. And it kind of, depending on these actions here, these actions are basically the actions that I was doing here. You're defining the logic for each action, and this is kind of how it decides to, on what it should do. And this is very clean and clear, and you can actually, so these are the blackboard. You can actually, this is the input output for the actual inspector. You can actually drag properties in here, and this reads external values, so you can have a dynamic thing going on here, and pretty. And then here for each of the actions, you have an inspector, and the same thing. These local these local dynamics where you can drag these in here. And so you can get a nice, instead of, so the tree, the whole concept is a tree to keep it clear and clean and organized, and to really understand the behavior. You can't really have, you know, one branch going over here and looping back on itself, and the thing will cycle and will loop, but it will loop linearly in one flow, and you can see when it's running. All right, so here what I've done is I've got together all of my my assets so far that I could probably use, that I'd like to use in this game, and I think this is a good set of assets. Right now, it's a wide variety. I got these guys for flying. The only problem with the insects, these look great. Their textures, their models, their, you know, animations, but these are more geared towards like a close combat melee. But these are usable right out of the box. You know, production ready. These are cool. If I had like a treasure bug, I could kill these for like a power up or something. But these are a pretty cool flying enemy again, but more, you know, yeah, no shooting unless I modified mesh texture and animation. Yeah, it's more of a melee. All these insects ones are melee. I got this one for free, and this actually looks like a production quality one. This one I'm actually using for the Biped, AI. This is the best one I could find, and it was free too. So like some of these, like they're, you know, they're production quality, but they're not free, and they're just not quite right. So, you know, they don't really fit to my vision. But anyways, this one's sweet. I like this one. I was thinking about using this one as the HK, maybe shrinking him down a bit. But he's, you know, again, non-shooting, but he looks pretty cool. Yeah, non-shooting, but that might be a good HK. This one, same thing, beetle, could use him, non-shooting. This guy, same thing, non-shooting. I was thinking about maybe doing him as an HK, but he's more suited for like a water enemy or something, but he can be on land as well. These ones are interesting. I was working with a program called Meshy AI, and basically you can give the AI an image, and it'll generate a pretty good rough mesh for you, and it even goes as far as doing a very rough texture for you, to put on the mesh. So basically, if you don't texture it, it just looks like, you know, looks gray or whatever. But I was able to take a few concept arts from Pinterest and plug it in, and it actually gives you a pretty decent model. The only problem with this is like this would work as a concept. Like if I wanted to use this, the only use this has is actually to plug this into Blender and actually go in and really clean up the geometry of the mesh. Because if you look real, you know, it doesn't look good up close. It could be passable at a distance, but you know, it just it's just super messy, and the textures are very basic. You know, there's no, it's just a single beetle map. You know, you'd have to pretty much, you'd only be able to use this, you know, as a concept and then like rework it as like a reference. But I guess it saves you a step from starting from the beginning with a mesh, and you know, this one I think this would be like the best HK. If I use, this is what I want to use as an HK for sure, like a snake kind of with it. But again, you'd have to do the whole thing. You'd have to go and rework the mesh, the texture, the animations. I was wanting to use this guy, maybe not these colors, but I was kind of wanting to use this guy as the simple biped, you know, AI, but I decided to go with him instead because he's, you know, he looks way better. But um, I like this guy. I did another one here. I was running out of free credits, so I didn't be able to texture him. But basically, it's like a spider thing where it kind of hangs from the ceiling. I was thinking it'd be kind of cool if you had like a little area, like a trap, and then, you know, if you go in that area, it'll come down and get you. But and then another one, I think this would be a kind of a cool flying robot guy that has, you know, shooting abilities instead of like a flying bug or whatever. But more bugs. This one was pretty. This one's pretty cool. This one was free, and I had an idea of actually, you know, being able to, as like a power up in the game, like every so often there's a toilet sitting here, and what you do, you sit on the toilet, and then there's an animation that kind of, it like transforms into this thing, and then what you could do, you could actually do a little mech sequence where you're riding the toilet and you're blasting away at the enemies with this toilet mech. I think that would be fun. This guy, I purchased this a long time ago. He's pretty sweet. I think this would probably do for like a boss encounter. Pretty impressive. It doesn't have wings or anything, but you know, it's, you know, that'd be pretty sweet for like some sort of boss. This guy I could probably maybe use an HK or even a boss. He has cool little underground abilities. And yeah, this guy's pretty cool. But that's pretty much all the set of enemies I have to use. So I'm basically working with this guy right now to get a basic Biped AI working. And also, let's see if I can cancel this out here. Remove, because I don't want all these guys running around. I bought some better. Since I was making this guy, I purchased a new production quality sci-fi weapons. Okay, back again. I had to do a little bit of setup here. So yeah, I went and upgraded to these new weapons. I had my eye on these for a while, and these are no longer low poly weapons. These are, you know, I could use these in production grade. I think these, and they come in 3 different colors. And the only issue is now I have to, you know, it's not quite right, perfect. It's not quite 100% again. I tried to slot them in to, there you go. I tried to swap the meshes in to break it as little as possible, but the IK and the animation is slightly off again, so I'll have to go in and polish it up again, but I think it looks way better than the original. Let's see if I can swap out for the gun. Oh, it's over here. Yeah, here's the pistol. Yeah, not quite spot on, but you know, it's reasonable to test with now. But let me get a closer look here. Yeah, it's just a lot more quality, in my opinion. Anyways, and then there's a bunch of them. There's like grenades, but these are not low poly. These are good to use in actual final production. And then he gets kind of a SMG. So on Thursday, I was working on this new AI here with this new behavior graph and setting up basic navigation. You know, navigate to this, just simply navigate, just starting from the beginning and building this, navigate to this point, and then I progressed on to, okay, navigate to the character target when he moves. And I was able to get back, and I figured I'd just use Invector's IK. I only did so it's a more simpler IK, and it'll work for the situation. I did my own IK solution because I wanted a bunch of custom animations and a more robust system to handle my main character controller. But the IK solution works, pretty good here. No need for to use my custom design solution. So I was getting the IK working, and everything was looking good. But at the end of the day, I was having some issues with ground layer detection. I'm pretty much building a new enemy AI controller from scratch. He was having symptoms of when you start, he would shift around, or he would fall through the ground, or when he was running toward a target, he would get stuck on an invisible wall. So on Friday, at the beginning of the day, I sorted out those bugs. It was a little tricky. I had to kind of rebuild a new one and kind of really narrow down the issue. But it basically came down to these guns actually have colliders on them out of the box, and that was interfering with the main character collider. So yeah, I got it all fixed up and got the IK working again. So when I was working on Friday, I was working on doing I got the navigate to target and face the target, rotate to the target. But today I was working on the aim at and shoot at. So I got those sorted out. It took some doing. Everything went pretty smooth, so there was no, huge blocking issues for, happening with progression. It was just a lot of steady work, sorting out and testing and building this functionality. Kind of, working from examples of how Invector does it into my own behavior system using this behavior graph. So, So at the end of the day, I got the polish up to where the follow is pretty solid. I can actually see if I can demonstrate. I'll do a better demonstration later, but if I enable this behavior graph, there you go. So yeah, so he'll rotate. It's not 100% polished. Like, there's certain things you can do, like if you go in close proximity around him, he won't, be able to shoot at you. But if you stop, he'll start shooting, and he won't shoot prematurely. He'll only shoot when he's aimed. And then if you go a certain distance away from him, he will. Where's my character? Oh, yeah. He will chase you down, and then transition to. And you can see. The cool thing about this, you can kind of see in the other one what was happening, but you can actually see in real time with the debugging feature. You can see where it's currently at, how the graph is behaving, and it just makes it a whole lot easier to visualize on the fly, what action the AI is currently taking. And if everything's going well. So I think this is going to be good. Even as my graph gets a lot more complex, I think it's going to be a better system overall, in my opinion. And then using this, this state machine that can loop back on itself or have multiple branches, to other ones. It's just like, yeah, this web, too complex. You need to have a streamlined tree, whatever that means. So working with this new system, there's a little adapting to its, how to use it in the right way, but I'm getting used to it, and more work on this later. So I continue my work polishing up this AI some more, adding more features like maybe it takes cover or something, or yeah, adding features like he does his patrol, things like that. So, and then polishing up the actual different cases. You know, maybe he turns faster to acquire you or whatever. Who knows? But just more work on the AI in general. But that is it's pretty much working right now, pretty good for the week. And that's about all I have. So I'll go ahead and say goodbye for now, and we will see you next week.